What is going on here?
Power on.
I'm going to get started on this here in just a second. This is a case out of Kansas City, Kansas. I was asked a while back to look into. I've been so deep into the Veronica Jilian case, and that's not going to change. But I am going to take some time out. And man, this case is something else, guys. Talk about corruption at its finest. This case has got a lot of corruption. And he was a homicide detective. If you're a big fan of the first 48 hours, he was on there. There's just a lot. And it's also, I think it's going to get personal. And the reason I say, I don't think, I know it is, but it's okay. I did work with somebody with the state, and her name was Golubski by marriage. Very good friend of mine. Haven't seen her in years. You know, when you got kids and grandkids and stuff grow up and you retire, things seem to go different routes. But it won't take her long to figure out that I'm on this case, and more than likely she'll be happy. Her dad was a senator for the state of Kansas for a very long time, big attorney in Kansas City, Kansas, in Wyandotte County, and passed away several years ago. But even though she might get upset at first when she figures it out, she'll also know I always do the right thing. She knows I do the right thing. So we're going to get started. Anybody that don't want to take on this journey with me, you won't hurt my feelings at all. Please, no. You would never hurt my feelings on that at all. Right now, we're just in I'm still digging, still got a lot going on with the Veronica Jilian case. But like I said, I had one of our House representatives reach out to me a couple months ago about this. And I said, well, when I get time, I'll try. I try to hold up to my word. And I did say I would try. So here's me trying. I'm going to do the best I can. But please do not let it take away from anything we're doing with Veronica and Julian, because that's a no-go for me. They are my number one concern, and justice for Veronica and Julian will be my number one concern until it's said and done. And then, as you know, then my job ain't over after that, because I do plan on continuing my journey with Wrangler and helping him the best I can. So here we go. Start. Kind of curious what you guys thought about my little thing that I made up yesterday. I am not video computer savvy, so something that might take somebody else 5 minutes takes me all day to do. So until I get the courage and the energy to do another one, this is going to be the one I use for a while. I wish I'd have made it longer, but hey, not bad for a first try. We'll go ahead and get started into who is Roger Golubski. Hey, Murphy Piglet, good to see you, love. I appreciate you coming over and giving the thumbs up. It was great seeing you in Landis chat. Take care of yourself. Thank you for stopping by. Stop by anytime. You're always welcome here. The door is always open. Well, thank you, beautiful. Much appreciated. Okay, we're going to start with Roger Golubski. There's really nowhere to start with this, so I'm going to start with the Marshall Project and explain to you what the Marshall Project is. I got me a couple drinks, so hopefully that'll help get me through all the talking I'm going to have to do. But here we go. Again, this is in Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County, one of the richest counties that Kansas has. That's also where 90% of the politicians live. Our senators, our congressmen, like most of them live there in Kansas City, Kansas. But anyway, the Marshall Project. Since 2014, the Marshall Project has been curating some of the best criminal justice reporting from around the web. In these records, you will find most recent and the most authoritative articles on the topics, people, and events that are shaping the criminal justice conversation. The Marshall Project does not endorse the viewpoints or vouch for the accuracy of reports other than its own. So with that said, there's so much on this detective. I'm just going to try to go back as far back as I can find it and then move my way forward, because that's going to be the best way to do it. Okay, let's start. Oh, and I will not subscribe to that, so let's see here. Detective from controversial 1994 KCK case retires from Edwardsville Police. So he retired as a homicide detective, and we're going to get into it, but I believe he became a chief of police. But as you see here, this was updated October 27th, 2016. So there's been controversy clear back to 1994 with this guy. This is Edward Golubski right here. Or Roger Golubski, sorry. Roger Golubski handed in his notice to retire from Edwardsville Police Department on October 6th. Golubski's last day is Sunday. Roger Golubski, the detective who investigated a 1994 double murder in Kansas City, Kansas, is now the focus of a campaign to free the man convicted, is retiring from law enforcement. The man convicted, his last name's McIntyre, if you can believe that. Anyway, Golubski, now with the Edwardsville Police Department, was a detective with the Kansas City, Kansas Department when the murders occurred. He led the investigation that quickly settled on Lamonte McIntyre as the only suspect. The Star has written a special report about a new effort to free McIntyre, who has been in prison for 22 years. Edwardsville Police Chief Mark Mathis says Golubski handed in his notice to retire on October 6th. His last day is Sunday, Mathis said. Mathis said he'd never received a complaint about Golubski's behavior since he joined the department in 2010. He wants to enjoy his life outside of law enforcement. Bullshit. That's wrong. They started getting hot on his trail, and so he retired. I cannot speak to how he acted or what he did in the McIntyre case. It's so distant, and it's not an Edwardsville Police Department case. In a memo to his staff earlier this month, this was a while back, Matthews wrote, Roger was instrumental in elevating the standards of our detective bureau, and during his tenure, the case solve rate averaged 81%. So good to see everybody here. I can see you on my TV while I'm reading. So, in the Star's report, Golubski's brief investigation into the April 15th, 1994 murders of Dwan Quinn and Donald Ewing is heavily detailed. When the case went to trial 5 months after the killings, there was no physical evidence, no evidence of motive, and no evidence that McIntyre even knew either of the victims, according to the motion to exonerate McIntyre. McIntyre, who was 17 when he was arrested, is now 40 and serving a double life sentence in the Lansing Correctional Facility. I will skip ahead a little bit. He does end up getting out. So. I'm saying YouTube, so we're going to have commercials. I'm not going to be able to do all these commercials if they keep it up. My middle child was born in 1994. Are you guys not seeing all this? What we got going on here? Let me make sure that you're seeing it. Okay, I don't know what's going on with that, so we're gonna stop that. So at least you know what the trying to get what's going on. I have to start over, I think. Just a minute. We'll just go ahead and start. Here we go. Good. Forward back. Okay. I don't want to do the 5 months. So I think I finally got that to stop. So, boy, that went on forever. There's really no good way to start. Just know that there was a case in 1994 that Roger was involved in, and it's never stopped. It's just crazy. TV must be behind. Trying to make sure we're all caught up here. And why? Really? Here we go. This should be bringing it up for you. June 12th, 2020, Kansas City, Missouri. Lamonte McIntyre will soon open a barbershop in KCK called Off the Top. It's been a dream of his since he was a prison barber, serving time for a double murder he did not commit. McIntyre was freed more than 2 years ago. The allegation behind his wrongful conviction were so terrible, it made nationwide news. He spent 23 years in prison despite his innocence. I know where I was 2.5 years ago. I still feel like I'm dreaming somehow, Lamonte said.
Across the country, there are calls for change in the way police departments are organized and how they operate. There's also a cry for accountability, but it's tough to see that in some local cases, including a wrongful conviction that has been a consistent focus of KCTV5's investigative department. Here's investigative reporter Angie Racono with a look at the Lamonte McIntyre case.
It's always unreal. I still haven't caught up with my life yet. I know where I was 2.5 years ago to where I am now. It's like, yeah, I still feel like I'm dreaming somehow.
Went to prison at
Lamonte McIntyre spent 23 years in prison for a crime he did not do. He was arrested as a teenager, finally freed in his 40s. Lamont was a prison barber,
Dreamt about that boy for a long time.
a skill which has led to this. He's about to open his own barber shop.
We got cabinets here, and then we got drawers here. Where we at so far, the vision is I can actually see it, and I'm excited about that. I'm very excited about that.
McIntyre has been in prison for 23 years. The KBI continues to investigate. The dirty cop did dirty things. KCTV5 has done numerous reports on Lamonte McIntyre. That's because allegations behind his wrongful conviction are so terrible. McIntyre's legal team argued a detective on the case was nothing more than a powerful predator who roamed the streets of KCK. Detective Roger Golubski became a captain, and his partner became the police chief.
I don't know what happened then.
He's got power. I don't got anything. I ain't got nothing.
Lamonte McIntyre's own mother says she was one of the victims. And when she refused to sexually submit any further to Officer Golubski, somehow 3 of her family members ended up in a single police lineup in a double murder. It included 2 of her sons and her nephew. Her son Lamonte McIntyre was convicted of a crime where he didn't even know the victims.
I thank you for this moment.
McIntyre's 23-year fight for freedom
This is the Freedom Walk right here.
became nationwide news. McIntyre's case was featured in the New York Times, where a possible revenge motive by Detective Roger Golubski was laid out.
I'm free, man. That's the only words I got.
Allegations were awful.
It is law.
Kansas passed compensation for wrongfully convicted people.
Yeah, baby.
You feel like you're back?
2.5 years later, there are amazing moments.
How you doing?
Lamont has started his own Innocence Project.
I know the struggle. I know how difficult it is being in that situation. So that's my motivation.
He's building his own business.
We've been planning this for a long time.
There are also heartbreaking realities. Lamont no longer calls KCK home.
Make it look better.
He'll manage his dream from another state.
I cannot stay away from here. The people supported me. I'm who I am and where I am in life right now because the community of Wyandotte County supported me. So I would never turn my back on Wyandotte County. I just don't want to live here because of circumstances.
Circumstances mean there's never been accountability in his case. It's unclear if former Detective Roger Golubski has ever even been directly questioned by any official agency. News organizations have been told some alleged crimes would be outside the statute of limitations. At other times, we are given a blanket response that they can't answer questions in an open investigation. Remember, 2.5 years have rolled by.
The whole situation needs to be opened up and exposed to sunlight. We're working very hard to shine light in some pretty dark corners right now.
The only visible push for accountability comes from inside this office. McIntyre's legal team continues to investigate allegations of corruption and cover-ups.
You start digging and you just, find so many horrific situations. You wonder sometimes how far it extends.
Attorney Cheryl Pilot says she doesn't believe Lamonte McIntyre is the only victim.
What we've seen there is a really twisted form of policing where misconduct in some instances has been particularly egregious, and the most vulnerable and powerless have been both abused and exploited.
Pilot is quick to point out she doesn't believe all officers are corrupt. In fact, officers have cooperated with her investigation. KCTV5 has repeatedly reached out to former Detective Roger Golubski, who stopped by his home this week. His car was in the driveway, but he did not answer his door. He declines to answer any of our questions. KCK has never forgotten this case. It haunts this community, and it haunts Lamonte McIntyre.
I can just get pulled over and they can just take me back. And I have nightmares about this stuff like 3 to 4 times a week. Always going back to prison and without being able to call nobody, without using the phone. And it's the nightmare I have all the time. I go back to prison and I can't remember nobody's phone number.
Lamont recently packed up and left KCK. It's still home, but it's not where he lives.
Things are still undone. I can't speak on them, but it's a lot of stuff that still need to be addressed. A lot of accountability need to be held, be met, and until that stuff happens, I'm never going to be at peace with that part of my life.
Detective Roger Golubski worked for the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department for 35 years before his retirement. It's unclear how many cases he touched as both an investigator and a supervising captain. In Kansas City, Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.
And of course, the Brady Giglio falls into effect with this. Me and my Brady Giglio, you know it. They always put all these ads on there. I hate it. Sorry.
Tonight here at 10, an unsolved murder in KCK is back now in the spotlight. The FBI is now investigating the death of Ronda Tribue. She was beaten to death more than 20 years ago. This case has gotten the attention of our investigative team because the detective on the case was Roger Golubski. He's accused of predatory behavior and sending an innocent man to prison. KCTV5's investigative reporter Angie Racono talked exclusively with Ronda Tribue's daughter.
This lonely stretch of road is where Ronda Tribue's body was found. It's on the edge of Edwardsville in KCK. She'd been beaten to death and run over by a car. So many injuries are documented in her autopsy. Who did this? No one has ever been held accountable, and her family wants answers.
What do you know about your mother's murder? What have you been told?
I know that it was a brutal murder and that she was discarded off the side of the road, that she did have DNA under her nails.
It's my opinion, and it's been proven, but this is YouTube entertainment purposes only. But he definitely, Roger Golubski, is definitely prejudiced against African American people.
She did fight back. Whoever it was, she did fight back. She didn't just die. She fought for her life.
Jalisha was just 4 years old when it happened.
A lot of heartbreak. Mother Day comes every single year. People come pick up their kids from school. So you're reminded every single day what you're missing out on.
Years rolled by, then decades. Ronda Tribue became another cold case.
I'm going to be honest with you. I lost hope. I lost hope before.
Now the FBI wants information, but there needs to be a compelling federal reason for them to investigate a local murder.
What is your understanding of why the FBI wants to look at your mother's case?
There's several cases that are particular to the same instance of my mother's case, and that he is the common denominator from all those cases.
The he Jalisha is talking about is actually the detective who worked her mother's case, Roger Golubski.
They're women, cold cases, brutally murdered, found in the same areas. So he is a target at this point.
There are terrible allegations swirling around Golubski. He's now retired. He was a powerful detective who became a captain.
I don't know what happened then.
His partner became the police chief.
Did you hear of any of these allegations?
There was nothing that I ever learned about him that I was like, ooh, that's not good.
Golubski worked for 35 years inside the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. Detective Roger Golubski. Everything heads to court tomorrow. It's unclear how many cases he touched. KCTV5 has done more than a dozen reports on him. He's accused of being a predator who roamed the streets and victimized the people he was sworn to protect. He's accused in court records of intentionally botching a double murder and sending an innocent man to prison for 23 years.
It's time that you do your job the way we see fit.
The Lamonte McIntyre case prompted cries for justice and accountability. Golubski has never faced criminal charges, as investigators argued many accusations are outside the statute of limitations. Golubski refuses to speak publicly about the allegations. We've tried.
Do you believe there are people in KCK out there that have information in your mom's murder?
Absolutely. KCK is a small town. If Kansas City wants to speak up, Kansas City will. Kansas City is small enough for someone to know exactly what happened. We're talking about a woman who was married and who has 6 children. You just don't disappear. You just don't disappear like that.
That was Angie Racono reporting. If you have information about Ronda's death, the FBI would like to hear from you. Their tip line number is 1-800-CALL-FBI. KCTV5 will continue looking into Ronda's case and the accusations surrounding former detective Roger Golubski.
Murder Revenge, a witness recanting who will dig into a retired KCK police captain's old cases. How does a person get away with that for over 20 years? Whoa.
I don't understand that. I mean, from the streets, how does a person get away with that for over 20 years? How do you do that? All the complaints. I mean, like I said, I was a kid and heard about this dude.
You're hearing from a prisoner who says he's innocent, questioning why more hasn't been done to hold a powerful KCK police captain accountable. Roger Golubski has been the focus of numerous KCTV5 reports, but he refuses to speak with us.
He has been accused in court documents of sexual assault and being nothing more than a vengeful thug with a badge.
Here's investigative reporter Angie Racono.
Golubski's name first surfaced about 4 years ago when an innocent man was released from prison. Golubski is now an accused rapist, and our continued reporting reveals families question if he's connected to the murders of poor Black women. Tonight, you'll hear from a prisoner who questions what will it take to look into Golubski's old cases.
My birthday.
Robert Diaz was shot and killed inside his car at 40th and Minnie. His autopsy revealed 7 gunshots. It was dark. No one called police for at least 10 minutes. Doors left open, headlights on, glass on the ground, then eventually sirens. Amon Mann tells his version of what happened next from Lansing prison.
What was it like when they picked you up and arrested you?
I didn't know what it was for. When I came in, I asked him, was it, what was this for? Like drugs? And he said, murder. I'm like, murder?
Amon Mann says he was a drug dealer back then, the guy with the money, not a killer, and claims there was no motive connecting him to the victim.
I never knew him. I never knew him. What's up, stuff like that. But besides that, I never had a conversation with this dude. I didn't know who he was. No, none of that.
Did they offer you a deal at any point before you went to trial?
My grandmother said if you didn't do it, don't make any deals, don't do anything. So I told him off the flip, I want to go to trial. There was no evidence against me at all, period, just besides this witness. So I was really pretty confident that, I would have been going home.
There was no physical evidence connecting Amon Mann to the case, no fingerprints on the car, and his clothing was tested, but investigators didn't find any blood. But there was one eyewitness who pointed to Mann, a teenager named Lauren Artis, a rival from the streets. The jury believed him, An Amman man was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Our story takes its first turn with his handwritten letter sent to man in prison. It comes from that eyewitness and rival. It's notarized, meaning an official verified the identity of the person writing the statement. It's dated May 1st, 2011. I claimed to be a witness to a murder on the Amman man case when I wasn't. I testified in open court because I was forced by detectives to. I want to retract my statement because I feel guilty about what I have done, and I feel like I was wrong. What did you think when you got that letter and you saw him saying that?
I was just happy that he was just telling the truth, and I thought I would just go home. I don't know much about the law.
Amman says the pieces in his head clicked. He knew the detectives, Roger Golubski and Terry Ziegler. If you look closely at KCTV5 file video, both detectives are at the scene. Golubski is in the tan sports coat, Ziegler in black. Their names are on the witness statement of Lauren Artis, where he's asked about the car. Question: what color do you remember it being? Answer: it was either green or red. A few pages later, he's questioned about what he did next. Answer: and by then, after they ran, after I seen them ran, I started running myself. But the story changes depending on the detective's questions. Maybe Lauren Artis doesn't run. Maybe he investigates the dead body. Question: okay, did you go up to the car to look in the car before you took off? Answer: yes, sir. The notarized letter recanting Lauren Artis's key testimony never prompted a court hearing, which is why we recently interviewed Amman man by phone from Lansing Prison. Years roll by.
I have nightmares about this stuff.
And then Lamonte McIntyre accuses this same detective, Roger Golubski, of fixing a case and pressuring witnesses out of revenge.
Yes, I was praying and hoping that it did it, because the same, it wasn't like it was a little different. It was like the same exact thing. You know, a witness being told what to say. And yeah, I was really hoping that it would affect me.
It didn't. If you were wondering what could make a powerful detective hate Amman man says he knows. He was dealing drugs near Golubski's daughter's house.
Well, because we were selling drugs out of the house, you know, and his grandkids was there or whatever. That's all I can really think of.
I just don't want to hear it no more.
Amman man has watched as people have stepped forward with terrible accusations.
Nobody cared, so that didn't matter.
Including sexual assault, questioning if Golubski played a role in the deaths or cover-ups of their loved ones.
She was strangled and she was left in the alley off of 10th and Walker. She was murdered.
Eric Calvin questions Golubski's role in his sister's death and investigation. Rose Calvin's case has been on our radar for years.
John Calvin.
Her brother is in prison, claims he's innocent, and the real killer agrees. We know because we interviewed him.
He ain't do nothing. I did it.
The FBI is digging into the cold case of Ronda Tribue. She was beaten and ran over by a car. The family says Golubski is a target.
He is the common denominator from all those cases.
It's time that you do your job the way we see fit.
Rallies call for Golubski to be held accountable, demanding a Department of Justice investigation. And Amman man just sits in prison, shaking his head.
I'm still here. I almost did all this time for nothing. No evidence on me whatsoever, period.
So
why is it so easy to convict you and so hard to get out? I don't understand that.
He tells us his case was recently in the hands of Wyandotte County's Community Integrity Unit, which reviews old cases. Every member of that unit was recently fired following secretly recorded conversations.
He loves genocide. No, I mean, you know, because that would solve so many of our problems.
It revealed troubling beliefs by the people who were supposed to bring accountability and justice to people like Amman man. What do you think of the justice system now?
I think it sucks. I really hate it. I really hate it.
It's unclear if Golubski has ever been interrogated by authorities, but he has been questioned in a civil deposition connected to the Lamonte McIntyre case, where he pled the Fifth Amendment more than 500 times. And that's the amendment that protects you from incriminating yourself. Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.
He's been the focus of several KCTV5 investigations. Now he could be the focus of a grand jury investigation. CNN is reporting that Roger Golubski is under federal investigation. KCTV5 has not been able to confirm that fact because grand juries are supposed to be secret. Emily Rittman joins us live with reaction from advocates and local officials. Emily?
Brad, advocates have wanted a criminal investigation into Roger Golubski for years. They say he terrorized members of the community by using his badge to extort sexual favors from poor Black women and helped wrongfully convict innocent people.
This is the moment Nico Quinn apologized to Lamonte McIntyre when he was freed in October of 2017 after spending 23 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. Quinn says she was pressured to falsely identify McIntyre as the killer in a 1994 double homicide. She says it's about time someone investigated Golubski's conduct.
He broke us, taunted us, stalked us for years.
Several women have accused Golubski of gaining leverage over them and forcing them to provide false information to wrongfully close criminal cases or perform sex acts.
There's so many victims who were silenced and coerced into silence and literally ran out of Wyandotte County to prevent them from coming forward.
Lamonte McIntyre and his mother, Rose Lee McIntyre, filed a lawsuit against Golubski. Their attorneys say Golubski retaliated against Rose because she rejected his sexual advances by framing her son for a double murder with the help of other defendants.
For decades, Detective Roger Golubski sexually abused Black women in Kansas City, Kansas, through his role as a police detective. And that's just what is confirmed.
Golubski has not been charged with any crimes and connections to the long list of allegations against him. Today, the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department issued a written statement that said, quote, since 2019, the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department has been responding to subpoenas from the FBI regarding allegations made against Roger Golubski. Despite many inquiries from both the public and media over the past 3 years, we did not disclose our cooperation with the investigation out of concern that it would interfere with the work of federal authorities.
What we want and what the community deserves is action, is results, is justice. And so we're encouraged to hear it, but we hope that there will be results from it.
Hopefully this leads to charges, and then the charges lead to a bigger investigation of KCKPD as a whole to see how this was able to go unchecked.
The unified government of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas Mayor David Alvey says that they have also been cooperating with investigators since 2019. He also sent a written statement that said in part, quote, I want to assure our community that the unified government will continue to assist authorities in their investigation. Our community deserves that the truth be known and justice be done, no matter how or when it occurs, end quote. Reporting live, Emily Rittman, KCTV5 News.
Emily, thank you.
I don't understand that. I mean, from the streets,
He's been the focus of several KCTV5 investigations. Now he could be the focus of a grand jury investigation. CNN is reporting that Roger Golubski is under federal investigation. KCTV5 has not been able to confirm that fact because grand juries are supposed to be secret. Emily Rittman joins us live with reaction from advocates and local officials. Emily?
Brad, advocates have wanted a criminal investigation into Roger Golubski for years. They say he terrorized members of the community by using his badge to extort sexual favors from poor Black women and helped wrongfully convict innocent people.
This is the moment Nico Quinn apologized to Lamonte McIntyre when he was freed in October of 2017 after spending 23 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. Quinn says she was pressured to falsely identify McIntyre as the killer in a 1994 double homicide. She says it's about time someone investigated Golubski's conduct.
He broke us, taunted us, stalked us for years.
Several women have accused Golubski of gaining leverage over them and forcing them to provide false information to wrongfully close criminal cases or perform sex acts.
There's so many victims who were silenced and coerced into silence and literally ran out of Wyandotte County to prevent them from coming forward.
Lamonte McIntyre and his mother, Rose Lee McIntyre, filed a lawsuit against Golubski. Their attorneys say Golubski retaliated against Rose because she rejected his sexual advances by framing her son for a double murder with the help of other defendants.
For decades, Detective Roger Golubski sexually abused Black women in Kansas City, Kansas, through his role as a police detective. And that's just what is confirmed.
Golubski has not been charged with any crimes and connections to the long list of allegations against him. Today, the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department issued a written statement that said, quote, since 2000,
New at 5, a man cleared after spending 23 years in prison for a double murder he didn't commit is suing the unified government and a former police officer. The lawsuit filed by Lamonte McIntyre seeks up to $93 million. It names the unified government and former officer Roger Golubski, who McIntyre accuses of framing.
No, I played a video twice. Sorry.
Cinco con Carolina en KCTV5.
Bienvenidos a 5 con Carolina. Les saluda Carolina Cruz. Hoy martes 6 de agosto. Las elecciones primarias están aquí y sabemos lo importante que es para usted emitir su voto lo más fácil posible. Hablamos con los expertos que tienen algunos consejos. Las urnas tanto en Missouri como Kansas están abiertas ahorita. Cierran esta noche a las 7 en ambos estados. Si usted está en línea antes de esa hora, podrá votar. En Missouri podrá votar por el próximo representante.
What the heck was that about? I don't know. We're wanting to see about his lawsuit for $93 million. Anyway, it took a civil lawsuit.
When it comes to moving,
prices
can be vague. But at You Move Me, the best move ever means clear upfront pricing with in-person and AI integrated estimates. You Move Me, where you matter most.
New at 5, a man cleared after spending 23 years in prison for a double murder he didn't commit is suing the unified government and a former police officer. The lawsuit filed by Lamonte McIntyre seeks up to $93 million. It names the unified government and former officer Roger Golubski, who McIntyre accuses of framing him.
We make junk disappear by giving it a new...
It wasn't a very long clip.
We make junk disappear by giving it a new purpose. We donate the donatables and recycle the recyclables. And any organic materials are taken for composting. All you have to do is point. Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Longtime KCTV5 investigations.
Emily Rittman covers the sentencing of a fake autopsy doctor. But we start here with jaw-dropping charges against former KCK detective Roger Golubski involving kidnapping and rape.
And for that, we go to investigative reporter Angie Rocono. Angie, where is Golubski tonight?
He is in the Shawnee County Detention Center, and here is his mugshot. We just got this. Tonight, you're going to hear from people who say they know the real Golubski.
I would describe him as a sociopath with a badge.
Lamonte McIntyre spent 23 years in prison for a double murder he didn't commit. He blames Golubski.
He locked so many people up for crime that they commit, and he's been the monster the whole time.
What could I do about him doing what he did to me? I didn't trust the police.
Ophelia Williams says he raped her.
You get what you get. You done did a lot of stuff to Black women.
Today's news was overwhelming.
I was just so happy. I don't know, I cried. It just blew me away that they finally, I was relieved. I was happy.
Accusers were notified in phone calls. Official charges were released. Prosecutors say Golubski's conduct included aggravated sexual abuse and an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, and included kidnapping and an attempt to commit kidnapping.
You like send heartache and pain for many years, destroy families. He destroyed our family, I know, and he destroyed many more families. Just a pain that you cannot describe.
Eric Calvin is haunted by the death of his sister Rose. His brother John says he's locked up doing someone else's time. The family questions Golubski's role in both cases.
I was just asking why. What was his purpose? I mean, why do you destroy families like that? I mean, what glory did you get out of it? What was the purpose? And how do you pick the families that you destroy?
Golubski worked for more.
No, and I don't think they're connected because Kevin McIntyre is white and this guy's black. But what it amounts to is Golubski, for over 35 years, was one of the lead homicide detectives for Kansas City, Kansas. You'll see in here, he also was on the big TV series, The First 48 Hours. Nobody questioned him. Guy went to jail for 23 years on a case he didn't do. You're going to see a lot of women that speak up, a lot of women that was raped by this particular man. There's women that came up missing. There is also children, Black African-American children that has disappeared. And it's all tracing back to him. And they've been trying to do this since 2019. It is a federal case, and he don't stay in jail. He is under house arrest, and they kept putting the pretrial off. You'll see where they tried to get rid of the indictment. You'll see where they tried to drop the case. A lot is fixing to see. You're fixing to see a lot. This case is really important for Kansas and people all over the world. But this really is a big case.
More than 30 years as a detective and a police captain. His partner became the police chief. Now, he was described in court documents as powerful and untouchable. Once again, tonight, he is in federal custody. He has a bond hearing on Monday.
And I'm good
Angie
friends with
Rocono,
Denise here.
KCTV5 News.
That was related to
When you
him
have
by
company
marriage.
over, the last thing you want
By
is
marriage. She worked for the state. Trying to skip the ads, guys.
Is the AC working? Don't lose your cool this summer. Call MVP.
Just want him to get what's coming to him.
All right, now to our other big story tonight. Former KCK police detective Roger Golubski faces federal charges and could spend the rest of his life in prison if convicted.
Golubski has been the intense focus of numerous KCTV5 investigations. Families accuse him of framing innocent people and sexually abusing women. Well, tonight he is in federal custody.
But anybody else would be in jail. He's not in jail. He's in the comfort of his own home because he's got diabetes and he's on house arrest. How does that happen? It's crazy.
Let's get right to investigative reporter Angie Racono. She's been following all the developments today. And Angie, tell us about these charges.
Well, Golubski faces 6 different charges of deprivations of civil rights. And here's why, according to the indictment. Golubski's conduct included aggravated sexual abuse and an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, and included kidnapping and an attempt to commit kidnapping. This was while he was a police officer and he was supposed to be protecting the community.
I didn't ever think this was going to happen.
Today, I spoke with Lamonte McIntyre. He was wrongfully locked up for 23 years. His legal team says Golubski framed him and sexually abused McIntyre's own mother. Lamonte tells me today is vindication and proof that the justice system works.
I would describe him as a sociopath with a badge that had a right to do it. He violated so many people's rights for so long, and the department that he was a part of at the time knew about it. The people he was around knew about it. They knew about it. They knew his name, they knew his reputation, and yet they did nothing. This man harmed people, kidnapped people, hurt people, raped people, including my mother, and they did nothing about it for years.
It's so beautiful.
I spoke with another accuser earlier today. Ophelia Williams' initials are in the indictment. Today, she cried and she prayed. She tells me she tried to report her rape, but she was brushed off. She feels what Golubski did is finally coming into the light. Ahead at 6, you're going to hear from another family. The Calvins have been the previous focus of a KCTV5 investigation. One sister is dead. Another brother is in prison. He says he's doing someone else's time. And the family says Golubski is connected to both cases. The brother says he has nothing to say to Golubski, but he has questions. Why? And how did you pick the families that you would destroy? The FBI is encouraging anyone with information to step forward, saying this investigation is ongoing. Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.
Yeah, quite the explosive developments today for sure. Angie, thank you. Well, tonight, Kansas City, Kansas Mayor Tyrone Garner gave this response following Golubski's arrest, saying today's arrest may bring comfort in the short term, but this is not the end. He continues, I stand by my commitment to support and welcome any independent outside investigations into any allegations of criminal misconduct by anyone within the unified government.
All right, there.
It's commitment.
Not sure what that was.
And death.
Let's go ahead and go to the next one.
Welcome to Job Connection. Dimensional Innovations, a design, build, and tech company in Overland Park, is seeking traveling carpenters to bring our client's project to life. $500 sign-on bonus and full benefits. Apply at dimn.com/careers. Look for Job Connection at kctv5.com.
KCK Police Detective Roger Golubski remains in jail tonight. He faces 6 federal charges for depriving people of their civil rights.
But
A closer look reveals that the allegations involve rape and kidnapping. Today, activists are calling for a deeper investigation. Here's investigative reporter Angie Racono.
Golubski served more than 3 decades inside the KCK Police Department. He became a captain and his partner became the police chief. Many question who knew about his behavior and the culture that allowed it.
I think that the arrest of Roger Golubski is certainly sort of the tip of the iceberg.
Team Rock is the social justice division of Jay-Z's Rock
Team
Nation.
Rock, what a
Today's
name.
website reflects the update they've been waiting for. Roger
Like it.
Golubski's arrest on federal charges.
He was in a leadership role. And certainly, you know, with that comes a lot of power and influence over how an organization operates. It calls into question what other, you know, acts of misconduct have occurred under his leadership and also at the KCK PD as a whole.
Other groups emphasize the same. The community group More Squared released this statement. Now it's time for systemic accountability and reckoning. Now it's time to overhaul the systems that have allowed for this to occur. The Midwest Innocence Project. This arrest is just a beginning, and we know that true justice demands more. A full investigation into the abuses in Wyandotte County and systemic reforms are needed to ensure that no other police officers and public officials can continue to abuse their power. Team Rock previously took out a full-page ad in the Washington Post calling for a full investigation of KCK, writing racism and corruption have led to one of the worst examples of abuse of power in U.S. history.
It's important for us not to turn away after this, very significant arrest, but to look more deeply into the patterns and practices of the KCK PD.
Golubski remains in the Shawnee County Adult Detention Center tonight. He'll be back in court Monday for a detention hearing. Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.
Is the AC working? Don't lose your cool this summer. Call in.
The story is graphic, it says. What happened there? Whoa, back up. Something happened. What's going on here? I hit something which really messed things up. Sorry, guys. I'm human. There we go. Okay. There's so many stories on it, so just so you know. we got going on here. Hold on. Hold on. Something's not jiving here. I might have to back it up. I don't know why it's going in circles.
Noted that the crimes that are mentioned in here and
It screwed itself up. That time it wasn't me.
A disgraced former KCK police detective accused of disturbing crimes will get to stay home while his case plays out in court.
Well, tonight, alleged victim.
Can you believe that? Because he's got diabetes, he gets to stay home. He don't have to spend time in prison. It's unbelievable. How does that happen? I don't understand.
Are devastated after a federal judge ruled to release Roger Golubski from custody. KCTV5's Betsy Webster is live outside KCK police headquarters with their reaction. And Betsy, what is the judge's reasoning behind this?
well, it comes down to what the law requires to keep someone in federal custody prior to a conviction. Now, you may remember Friday, the prosecutors filed this 25-page document full of graphic details about the alleged crimes against women, one who was a middle schooler at the time. They said in here, look, those women, all the women described in here are simply not safe if Golubski is free. But the judge noted that the crimes that are mentioned in here and the stalking that is described, that all ended years ago. And she said that his poor health played a big role in her decision.
Golubski's defense attorney today laid out his declining health, heart disease, kidney failure, and diabetes, requiring insulin shots and dialysis. The judge questioned if he would live to trial were he to stay in custody. His accusers say, tell that to the people in prison.
They are held in prison, and some of whom need even deeper medical care than was described. I think this is a convenience to say that I'm so ill I can't be held accountable for the damage that I've done to my community.
You look at your justice system again, it work, man. It don't work the same way for everybody. It's still unbalanced. It's not equal.
Lamonte McIntyre was freed after 23 years in prison. His mother is one of the women who accused Golubski of sexually assaulting her. McIntyre claims Golubski framed him because his mother refused further exploitation. The federal charges against Golubski related to kidnapping and sexual assault include a woman who was an adult at the time and a woman who was 13 or 14 then. The recent filing gave accounts of 7 other women who said they were victimized from the mid-'80s to 2004.
All the women up there got real life stories. I see it in my mother every day, so I know it. She don't come out the house no more, none of that stuff. That stuff affected my whole life because of his decision making. But he get to walk home free again. He's free, he's been free this whole time. He never had to take responsibility for nothing he did.
Now, nearly all of the accounts, 9 of them in this document, involve some similarities: an offer to help someone who is in trouble with the law or who has a loved one in trouble, then sexual assault, then threatening to hurt them or loved ones if they say anything, then coming back again and again. It is that last part that played into the prosecution's argument that he should be kept in custody. They say it showed that he was keeping tabs on his victims, and they suggested he might feel he has little to lose with a potential life sentence ahead of him. But the judge said that his medical condition and the time that's lapsed means that he's not the risk now that he might have been then. Reporting live in KCK, Betsy Webster, KCTV5 News.
Even so, that has to be really hard for these victims to take, for sure. All right, thank you, Betsy.
turn up your morning.
Get up, get going, and turn on KCTV 5.
We'll bring you local stories that matter and get you ready for your day. And if you know me, you know I'm thrifty, so I'm going to find you the most efficient drive for your morning commute.
Join us weekday mornings on KCTV 5.
And now that Golubski's character is under the spotlight, it begs the question, will anyone review his old cases?
It is echoing among prisoners and their families who say Golubski framed them. Investigative reporter Angie Ricona spoke to one man who says the alleged crooked cop is the reason he's behind bars.
We first brought you a Mon man's story years ago. He's convicted of a murder he swears he didn't do. Tonight, he's reacting to news that Golubski faces a life sentence, accused of kidnapping and rape. But first, here's why a Mon man tells his story from prison. Robert Diaz was shot and killed inside his car at 40th and Minnie. His autopsy revealed 7 gunshots. It was dark. No one called police for at least 10 minutes. Doors left open, headlights on, glass on the ground, then eventually sirens. A Mon man was convicted of murder, but swears he's innocent.
I'm just sitting here patiently waiting for them to open the doors, you know, and one of my biggest things in here is the victim's family. Like I said, just off of this man's word, you know, they think I committed this crime, and I didn't.
There was no physical evidence connecting a Mon man to the case. No fingerprints on the car, and his clothing was tested, but investigators didn't find any blood. But there was one eyewitness who pointed to man, a teenager named Lauren Artis, a rival from the streets. The jury believed him, and a Mon man was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Our story takes its first turn with his handwritten letter sent to man in prison. It comes from that eyewitness and rival. It's notarized, meaning an official verified the identity of the person writing the statement. It's dated May 1st, 2011. I claim to be a witness to a murder on the...
Some of this stuff repeats itself, so I have to go through it. But isn't this some straight up bullshit? And it gets worse. It does get worse.
When it comes to moving, prices can be vague. But at You Move Me, the best move ever means clear upfront pricing with in-person and AI integrated estimates. You Move Me, where you matter most.
If it was a black cop doing white women, you think he would have went home? Hell no. Hell.
One of Roger Golubski's accusers speaks out about the retired KCK detective being sent home to wait for trial.
Ophelia Williams is revealing what she says happened to her. She's also sharing what she thinks about the justice system.
Here's investigative reporter Angie Ricona.
Ophelia Williams says she was raped numerous times by a powerful detective, Roger Golubski. This is his mugshot. He now faces 6 federal charges related to rape and kidnapping. Half of those charges are for what Ophelia says happened while Golubski was on duty.
I'm sitting on the couch, and next thing I know, his hands start going up my skirt.
Ophelia Williams describes what happened in her home more than 20 years ago. She says she quickly realized Roger Golubski wasn't there on official police business.
And so I stood up, wanting him to leave. But he just grabbed me by my hands, threw me on the couch, and, did what he did.
20 years later, the retired detective finally faces charges, and Ophelia is explaining what happened to her grandkids.
It was kind of hard, because I cried when I was telling it to him, But They say they understand. They like, Grandma, that's why you be talking in your sleep. You know, I'll holler and scream in my sleep sometimes.
Ophelia is OW in federal documents, which accuse Golubski of numerous rapes inside her home and one attack inside his police vehicle.
He told me with his gun on my table if I told or said anything about this, or what he gonna do, or what he can have done to me. And nobody will ever find me for a long time. What you expect? What do I supposed to do?
Ophelia says she told a police officer.
He wrote stuff down. But like I said, I never did hear anything else about it.
More recently, she contacted the prosecutor.
The police office. I called, some young man. He said he was writing down what I said, and he was gonna, pass it along. Never heard anything about it.
Federal investigators did listen to Ophelia and numerous other accusers. 9 are referenced in a recent court filing. A pattern of poor Black women who say they were powerless against a detective who became a captain.
I have to refer you to my attorney.
Golubski was recently released to home confinement due to his health problems, which include diabetes, dialysis, and heart problems.
What about my health? I have heart problems. I have 3 stents. I'm a diabetic. I have high blood pressure.
Ophelia was in court and says she was stunned to hear the judge point out Golubski has no official complaints in his record and hasn't been accused of any recent criminal activity.
Black people ain't nobody. Nobody. That's the way the judge made me feel, when she sent him home.
Ophelia doesn't buy others were unaware of Golubski's predatory behavior.
I don't know what happened then.
She watched us interview Golubski's former partner who became the police chief. Terry Ziegler is now retired too. Did you ever personally work with Golubski?
Yes.
Did you hear of any of these allegations?
There was nothing that I ever learned about him that I was like, ooh, that's not good, or that I need to report up the chain of command.
Really?
Criminal activity.
Black people ain't nobody. Nobody. That's the way the judge made me feel, when she sent him home.
Ophelia doesn't buy others were unaware of Golubski's predatory behavior.
I don't know what happened then.
She watched us interview Golubski's former partner who became the police chief. Terry Ziegler is now retired too. Did you ever personally work with Golubski?
Yes.
Did you?
Sorry,
hear
it
of these
stopped for a minute. I had to get it
There was
going.
nothing that I ever learned about him that I was like, ooh, that's not good, or that I need to report up the chain of command.
Really? Because Ziegler came over to my apartment with him one time, but he sat outside in the car, and Golubski come in and did what he had to do.
Ophelia knows she's not alone in her accusations. Other charges involve an accuser who was 13 years old at the time. SK says Golubski put a dog collar on her and walked her like a dog near the river before raping her. He took every piece of my sanity that I had by putting a dog collar on me and walking me around as if I'm his pet and I'm not a human being.
So that's why the river is so devastating to me.
I cried when I read her story. Yes, that's unbelievable.
Ophelia's is unbelievable too. Allegations of rape by a police detective, reports which went nowhere, and finally, now hope.
Golubski is expected to be in court next Wednesday involving a murder case. 2 convicted men swear they are innocent. Their attorney says a key witness claims he was pressured by detectives. The courts are trying to sort out if one of those detectives is Roger Golubski, which means our reporting continues. Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.
When you have company over, the last thing you want is a backed up drain.
We're going to keep going. There's so much more. We're going to get a little closer.
Retired Detective Roger Golubski. Attorneys argue that information could help other people who might be wrongly imprisoned.
Right? All of this needs to be unearthed, opened, and revealed to the public to make sure that either there weren't other wrongful convictions, to which I think most of us say there most assuredly are, or if there are, we are absolutely going to do everything we can to correct them.
The Midwest Innocence Project says that they are currently investigating dozens of cases in Wyandotte County. Roger Golubski will be back in court tomorrow for a status hearing. He has pled not guilty to federal charges related to rape and kidnapping.
So sad. It's all sad. Every doggone bit of it's sad.
Welcome to Job Connection. Garmin is hiring for third shift assembly and machine operation manufacturing positions. Work in our state-of-the-art manufacturing climate-controlled facility. Excellent benefits. Apply at garmin.com/careers. Look for Job Connection at kctv5.com.
Disgraced retired KCK police detective Roger Golubski was back in federal court this morning. He faces federal charges related to rape and kidnapping. Investigative reporter Angie Racono has been following this case and reports from Topeka.
We are getting a clearer picture of how large and complex this case is. Attorneys discussed 36,000 pages of discovery. They asked for more time, so a new status hearing was set.
Roger Golubski, do you have any comment on the charges?
Not today.
Not today?
Roger Golubski was stone-faced as he walked into the Topeka federal courthouse. He's charged with federal crimes, and prosecutors promise the investigation isn't over. It continues. Accusers like Ophelia Williams following the action.
I don't know. I mean, he walking around like he haven't did anything. And he get up and come out and he just looks at us, you know. So I don't know. I have no idea. I just leave it in God's hand. He'll work it out.
Golubski is currently on home confinement due to health problems. He's also accused of intentionally botching murder cases out of revenge. One man has been freed, Lamonte McIntyre. KCTV5 is now following 3 other murder cases involving 4 men. In 2 cases, the key eyewitness has recanted. In the third, the gunman has taken responsibility and cleared the man sitting in prison. Advocates call for a complete review of all of Golubski's cases as allegations of corruption involving KCK PD make national news.
I'm shocked that nobody has taken the time or made the effort to take a look at other Golubski investigated convictions.
We recently spoke with Jim McCluskey with the Innocence Project Centurion Ministries. He's been doing this work for 40 years, reviewing hundreds of cases. His team freed 66 innocent people, including Lamonte McIntyre. He shared his perspective.
How does Golubski compare as an officer to what you've seen nationwide when there's allegations of corruption?
We've never encountered such an extensive, consistent, evil, predatory sexual behavior on the part of a police officer anywhere else in the United States.
Golubski will be back in court in December. Reporting in Topeka, Kansas, Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.
Turn up your morning.
Get up, get
go. Okay.
Turn up your morning.
Get up, get going.
I guess it went straight to it.
We'll bring you local stories that matter and get you ready for your day. And if you know me, you know I'm thrifty, so I'm going to find you the most efficient drive for your morning commute.
Join us weekday mornings on KCTV5.
I was extremely confident. I had faith in the justice system. There was no way in the world that I thought I could be found guilty doing something that I did not do.
That's Brian Betts. Betts and his cousin are both convicted in a 1997 KCK murder, and they've spent decades in prison. They both swear they're innocent.
They're back in court tomorrow, hoping a judge will consider old information with a new perspective. Here's investigative reporter Angie Racono.
This case has the dark shadow of retired KCK detective Roger Golubski. He faces federal charges connected to rape and kidnapping. He's also accused of fixing murder cases out of revenge. He wasn't the detective on this murder case, but the victim was his nephew by marriage. It's going to be a key factor in tomorrow's hearing.
I had nothing to do whatsoever with that. I was not there. I was not involved in it. I was in the bed asleep with my son and his mother, and I had no knowledge of it whatsoever.
25 years ago, a young man named Greg Miller was shot 18 times on a dark street and left for dead. A witness told police he saw the killers run down a nearby alley. Brian Betts says he remembers hearing the gunshots and simply went back to sleep. Gunshots were unfortunately common.
When I came home from work, I learned that someone had been killed that we heard. So, I was kind of surprised at that.
More than a month rolled by before Betts and his cousin Sylvester McKinney were charged with first-degree murder.
And I was totally shocked at that. I was totally shocked at the fact that we could be charged with something like that and that anybody could suspect me for being involved in something like that, especially when I had no idea of what happened, why it happened, anything like that.
Betts says he was confident the case would be dismissed or he'd be found not guilty. That didn't happen. Both Betts and his cousin are now serving life sentences, convicted in separate trials. Their uncle testified he saw them with the guns the night of the murder. He recanted and says he was pressured by detectives to give false testimony or he'd be charged.
We're looking for them to be free. That's the goal, is for them to be free. The corruption here is horrible.
Free Sylvester McKinney.
Their families host rallies and have hired attorneys throughout the years, arguing the connection to disgraced detective Roger Golubski as a major factor in the case.
His name didn't just come about. Brian and Les have been saying his name for the last 23 years
or more.
That won't go unnoticed by
The families have support from key people like Lamonte McIntyre. He's been exonerated in a KCK double murder. His legal team accused Golubski of intentionally botching the case out of revenge and pressuring witnesses.
To not look at it as, come on, that's like criminal at this point, because you know who is involved. You can't act like that's not there. It's there.
It's no longer just rumors on the street that Roger Golubski was a menace to society with a badge. Now there's federal charges.
There are new attorneys on the case. Both are working for free. They argue Golubski was a part of the case, even if he wasn't officially assigned to it.
There seems to be a real pattern that is emerging with how the police in Wyandotte County were making cases out of thin air against people.
But the family of the murder victim, Greg Miller, says the right killers are in prison, and this is a literal cop-out. They started a change petition. The headline, "Do not set these cowards free," writing, his family is trying to use the situation with the then detective Roger Golubski for his benefit.
You took my nephew's life. He's doing life underground. You got charged with life. Do your time for doing your crime.
We spoke by phone with Greg's aunt, who is also Roger Golubski's ex-wife.
Roger did not work that case.
Yeah. Was he tight with your nephew?
No.
The cousins in their legal team point to a lack of physical evidence in the case.
Now, y'all did just catch that, right? Well, I'm gonna roll that back just a little bit of how Roger's connected to this lady. It's her nephew in prison.
Then Detective Roger Golubski for his benefit.
You took my nephew's life. He's doing life underground. You got charged with life. Do your time for doing your crime.
We spoke by phone with Greg's aunt, who is also Roger Golubski's ex-wife.
Roger did not work that case.
Yeah. Was he tight with your nephew?
No.
The cousins in their legal team point to a lack of physical evidence in the case and say eyewitnesses had new details as weeks rolled by. A neighbor says the killers ran down the alley. Later, it was inside this house. And the legal team points out the uncle didn't implicate his nephews until he was questioned again inside the police station.
I'm actually innocent. I have been wrongfully convicted. I've been falsely accused. I've been falsely in prison for the past 24 years and 8 months for something that I did not do, that I had no knowledge of, that I was not involved in any type of way.
These cousins aren't the only ones arguing their cases need to be reviewed because of Roger Golubski. We're following 2 other cases. A Mon man swears he's innocent. The eyewitness in his case has recanted, saying he was pressured by detectives. And this is John Calvin. We've actually interviewed the man who admits he's the gunman, and the wrong man is sitting in prison. We'll continue to follow all of these cases. Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.
Welcome to Job Connection. Dimensional Innovations, a design, build, and tech company in Overland Park, is seeking traveling carpenters to bring our client's project to life. $500 sign-on bonus and full benefits. Apply at dimn.com/careers. Look for Job Connection at kctv5.com.
Cinco con Carolina and KCTV5.
Bienvenidos a Cinco.
Yeah. I guess they do it in Spanish afterwards. This sad case.
Welcome to Job Connection. Dimensional Innovations, a design, build, and tech company in Overland Park, is seeking traveling carpenters to bring our client's project to life. $500 sign-on bonus and full benefits. Apply at dimn.com/careers. Look for Job Connection at kctv5.com.
Federal prosecutors say teenagers were raped, beaten, and became the victims of sex trafficking out of a KCK apartment complex. And Roger Golubski is among the 4 men now facing charges for it. Let's get right to our investigative reporter, Angie Racono. She joins us here in the studio. What can you tell us about these charges?
Well, Carolyn, these charges are disturbing like the other ones. Retired detective
Focus of KCTV5 investigations. They have all spent decades in prison.
We will keep following this. Angie Racono.
We make junk disappear by giving it a new purpose. We donate the donatables and recycle the recyclables.
Sorry, some of it
And
was
any organic
detailed,
materials
that's
are taken for composting. All you have to do is point.
horrible.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Hundreds of
Turn up your morning.
Get up, get going, and turn on KCTV 5.
We'll bring you local stories that matter and get you ready for your day.
Get a personalized weather forecast for your neighborhood.
I'm going to find you the most efficient drive for your morning commute.
Join us weekday mornings on KCTV 5.
And the Wyandotte County Commission has approved a plan to spend $1.7 million on digitizing the district attorney's old case files. It comes as cases involving disgraced Detective Roger Golubski are being looked at. KCTV5's Betsy Webster joins us now live from Wyandotte County. Betsy, why are they doing this now?
Well, the DA said he asked for something similar 6 years ago, back in 2018, and was turned down. He asked for 1.2 mil then and got just 155K. He suggested the renewed urgency was spurred by the federal indictments filed against Golubski, one of them unsealed in September and another just this week.
I'm asking tonight for this 1.7 million because we have made national news of an officer who worked in our community for nearly 40 years.
The DA's request comes the very day the national organization Team Rock held a rally with hundreds in front of City Hall, pushing once again for a DOJ investigation of the police department. Golubski was alive to 2016. That's more than 40 years of cases that need to be examined, going back to 4,000 boxes of paper files jammed into an old jail, files the DA calls unorganized and unsearchable. Even the scanning they've done since 2018 only allows searching by the name of the defendant and victims, not by detectives involved. The new software that makes up the bulk of this request would do that.
And let me be clear, as this investigation is still going on federally, we do not know if and when there will be other names that may end up being called. As such, we need to prepare and put in place a process so that we would not have to be in this situation again.
And the money is not in hand yet. What the commission voted on unanimously was to commit to funding this project this year. But first, the budget staff has to go back and look at where the money could be coming from. There will be a special session next week, a special meeting in which they will vote specifically not just on the dollar amount, but where the money would come from, because the law says they cannot allocate money without first having a funding source. Reporting live in KCK, Betsy Webster, KCTV5 News.
All right, keep us updated on the developments. Betsy, thank you.
Turn up your morning.
Get up, get going, and turn on KCTV 5.
We'll bring you local stories that matter and get you ready for your day. And if you know me, you know I'm thrifty, so I'm going to find you the most efficient drive for your morning commute.
Join us weekday mornings on KCTV 5.
Casey.
It's commitment.
know? That's the question I want to know.
A KCK man opens up about what he says happened to him along the edge of the river.
Tonight, you'll hear allegations and questions regarding former KCK detective Roger Golubski. He faces numerous federal charges related to rape, kidnapping, and sex trafficking.
Other accusers say if investigators keep digging, they'll discover even more. Here's investigative reporter Angie Racono.
Tonight, you'll hear allegations from a man named Dion Martin. He's not connected to the current charges Golubski faces. His accusations are completely separate and first came to light when he gave an affidavit in a civil case. The riverbanks of KCK are home to trains and fishing holes, but it's mostly desolate. You can hear your feet crunch on the gravel. Accusers say this was a crime scene. They couldn't report what happened here, even though they tried. That's because they say the predator who came here was a police officer.
I'm scared as heck. You know, I don't know what he gonna do, you know.
Dion Martin says when he was a teenager, Detective Roger Golubski would drag him here to the river's edge, force him to kneel, and steal his drug money.
I thought he was gonna kill me.
Then played Russian roulette at the back of his head.
I can hear the chamber spin. You know, I can hear it snap back in. Then I felt the pressure against my head, you know, from the gun. Now I'm scared, you know, and urinated on myself, you know. I'm really scared, you know, like, this dude finna kill me, you know. Why? You know, that's what I'm thinking, you know, what I do, you know, it was so bad, you know.
What is he saying?
He's saying, I got you now, then calling me the N-word.
Dion says he was taken to the river numerous times, always robbed, sometimes beaten, and sometimes stripped of his clothes.
Take my jacket, my pants, my shoes, you know. Tell me I better hurry up, make it home, you know, so take off running.
Why do you think he did that?
To make me feel bad, you know, let me know that he hold the power, because he would say that, you know, what you gonna do to me, you know. And shoot, I'm thinking in my head, I can't do much.
Dion says other officers were sometimes there too. One time they watched as Golubski played another game of Russian roulette at the back of Dion's head. What did the other officers say when he's playing Russian roulette at your head?
Well, they're all joking and laughing like, yeah, look, we got us one, you know. We got us one, let's take his stuff.
Do you have any comment? We reached out to Roger Golubski's attorney for comment. He provided a statement questioning the motivation and timing of Dion's allegations. Mr. Martin was a gang member selling crack cocaine in the 1980s. No doubt police regularly detained him and seized his drugs and drug money, but his claim that multiple officers took his clothes and played Russian roulette with him is simply not credible.
That was just the environment, you know.
It's true Dion Martin has a criminal record. He's open about the time he served at several prisons related to drugs and assault. He was hesitant to speak with us, but agreed to do so before leaving town. Dion isn't the only person accusing Golubski of taking them to the river. As we've previously reported, it's the same location described by accuser SK. SK.
What's going on here? I'm going to skip forward.
For the smell, alluding to dead bodies. He'd attach a collar and leash and walk her like a dog. He took every piece of my sanity that I had by putting a dog collar on me and walking me around as if I'm his pet and I'm not a human being. So that's why the river is so devastating to me.
Who better to clean their own house than those who are involved in it? No one's tied to Roger Golubski.
The KCK Police Department promises to review old cases following community outcries for accountability. $1.7 million will be spent digitizing old records. But activists say a review of papers will only tell part of the story. They question who else knew and what's not contained in those files. Dion and SK say they tried to report what happened to the police, but there are no records. Family members were pressured or turned away. Golubski remains on house arrest. Federal prosecutors say their investigation continues. Angie Racono,
Okay, with that said, I want to go to something else. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. The two guys did not get let loose. But he even went as far. Let's go ahead and see their case and see why.
Welcome to Job Connection. Lakeview Village in Lenexa is seeking a speech-language pathologist, an occupational therapist, a physical therapy assistant, and more. Apply at lakeview.org/careers. Look for Job Connection at kctv5.com.
Two cousins from Kansas City, Kansas will remain in prison.
This is Celester McKinney and Brian Betts. Here they are. They were convicted of a 1997 murder. We covered their October hearing, asking a judge to overturn their convictions. Well, that did not happen.
Investigative reporter Angie Racono looks at why this case received so much attention.
That's because the men blame disgraced detective Roger Golubski. The cousins were convicted in separate trials due to their uncle's testimony. Carter Betts originally said he was sleeping when he heard the gunshots back in 1997. Weeks later, he said his nephews were responsible. The two men point out the murder victim, Greg Miller, was Golubski's nephew by marriage, something they discovered after the trial. Their uncle
What happens with the conflict of interest? Out of all the homicide detectives there was, and for somebody to be so racist, seems like he was married to an African American, maybe? I don't know. Wow.
Candid in court saying he was pressured by detectives to implicate his nephews or he would go to jail. Carter Betts and Golubski also testified, but he denied he was involved in the case. Today, the judge acknowledged the, quote, cloud of doubt surrounding Golubski. Golubski faces federal charges related to rape, kidnapping, and sex trafficking. But the judge said he was not impressed with the uncle's recantation, expressing a lack of confidence. This decision came down today in a virtual hearing. The cousins did not react, but it appears they will continue their legal fight and appeal the decision. Brian Betts released a statement to KCTV5 through his sister proclaiming he's innocent and thanked everyone for their support and their prayers. Golubski remains on house arrest despite the charges he faces. That's due to his medical condition. We'll continue to follow all
His
of the
diabetes.
Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.
His diabetes. Then he wanted to be off of house arrest. Not only did he not want to be in jail, he wants to be off of house arrest. This case has went on far too long. He's not going to tell us about it. I'm going to read this to you. So I don't think there is a video, so I'm going to read it to you. But this is what his paperwork said. Do I not have you guys with me? Okay, I do. Okay. Motion to modify conditions of release. Pursuant, Roger Golubski moves the court to modify his condition of release to remove the requirements for home detention. On September 14, 2022, Roger Golubski was indicted in case number 22400055 and arrests on the charges. Mr. Golubski was brought before this court for an initial appearance on September 15th. A detention hearing was held on September 19th. Following a proffer of facts and argument, the court granted pretrial release subject to conditions, including home detention. The court imposed the same conditions of release in case number 22400086 following Mr. Golubski's indictment on November 10th, 2022. Since the court's original detention order, the government has produced thousands of pages of discovery. Counsel has reviewed the discovery and believes that the information contained thereon justifies reconsideration of home detention as a condition of pretrial release. The charges filed in case number, I'm not even going to read the case number, are premised entirely on allegations that cropped up during Rose and Lamonte McIntyre's widely publicized lawsuit seeking multi-million-dollar judgment against Wyandotte County, based on claims that Mr. Golubski was a crooked cop engaged in sexual misconduct. The FBI learned of both SK and OW through McIntyre's attorney, Cheryl Pyatt. The timing and context of their allegations are incredibly suspicious. On April 1st, 2019, retired KCK police officer Henry Sonny Callahan, who held himself out as working with Miss Polite, visited OW and told her that he knew a real good lawyer for her and that there was millions of dollars in this thing. Calhoun told her, "You need to talk to Cheryl so she can get you, to set you up money for your children and grandkids." 3 days later, Calhoun told OW's boyfriend that OW could get $200,000 or $300,000. 1 week later, on April 11th, 2019, OW met with FBI agents and alleged that Roger Golubski had sexually assaulted her. SK first told the FBI that she was a victim of Roger Golubski on July 15, 2020, during a meeting hosted at Cheryl Pilate's office. Ms. Pilate, who personally informed the FBI about SK, facilitated 6 meetings between SK and the FBI between July 15, 2020 and December 16, 2020, each at Ms. Pilate's office. SK's allegations includes claims that, if true, could be corroborated, such as being taken to the hospital from her middle school because she was hemorrhaging from a miscarriage after becoming pregnant with Roger's child. To date, the prosecution has not produced any evidence corroborating such claims. The charges filed also could be traced back to Mr. McIntyre's legal team, as Mr. McIntyre's attorney sought to identify the true perpetrator of the crimes of which Mr. McIntyre had been convicted. They identified an individual connected to drug dealer Cecil Brooks and pursued rumors that Mr. Golubski was protecting Brooks. But after years of investigation, the FBI found nothing more than rumors. In fact, discovery reveals that each of Mr. Golubski's co-defendants spoke with agents regarding their alleged connections to Mr. Golubski, and each of Mr. Golubski's co-defendants denied that Mr. Golubski participated in criminal activity with them or any criminal activity alleged to have occurred at the Delavon apartments. They denied Mr. Golubski's participation in criminal activity, even as they admitted to witnessing and or participating in criminal conduct themselves. The nature of the circumstance of the offense charged, counsel acknowledges that the charges are serious, but Mr. Golubski's co-defendants, who are accused of equally, if not more, egregious offenses than he, have been released without a requirement of home detention. Mr. Robinson and Mr. Robertson are accused of actively operating an underage sex trafficking operation. Well, we all know they're informants, right? Like, it don't take a rocket scientist to figure out that they became informants, where they beat and threatened to beat girls who did not agree to provide sexual service in exchange for shelter, drugs, or clothes. Mr. Robertson stands specifically accused of kidnapping and repeatedly raping, sodomizing, and threatening to kill a particular juvenile. Both Robinson and Robertson have been ordered released pending trial. Neither is required to spend that time on home detention. Neither has location monitoring requirements. Circumstances of alleged offenses also warrant consideration. All conduct in the alleged have occurred well over 2 decades ago and under circumstances dramatically different from today. The government and individual accusers claim Mr. Golubski accomplished crimes by virtue of access and power granted through his position as a KCK PD detective and captain. Now, let me remind you, he was also on the first 48 Hours, the TV show. Mr. Golubski has not occupied that position for more than 12 years. The weight of the evidence against the person, having reviewed all discovery produced today, it appears that the charges against Roger Golubski are entirely based on uncollaborated allegations. You'll find out further on in this case that that's not true. They're proven. The allegations of decades-old conduct were made in an environment primed for collecting, encouraging, promoting false accusations. During a media frenzy, depicting Mr. Golubski as the center of police corruption in KCK and the key component to winning a habeas action and or multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Mr. Golubski's accusers were handed to the FBI by an attorney pursuing a money judgment that hinged on painting Mr. Golubski as a dirty cop whose corruption was tied to sexual misconduct. This begs the question whether their allegations were raised 20 years ago or only after being approached by the McIntyre's representatives. Prison and who were seeking the $100 million from Wyandotte County in civil litigation. SK told FBI agents that when she was 16 years old, she told her aunt what Roger Golubski had done to her. She claimed that she went with her aunt to the police station and her aunt reported it. The prosecution has not produced any evidence to support this claim. SK also told FBI agents that after going to the police station, her aunt did not believe her claims. OW's boyfriend told FBI agents that OW told him an unnamed police officer took advantage of her, but only identified Roger Golubski after his name and image became prominent in the media. So basically what they was trying to do, they were trying to get Mr. Golubski even off his house arrest, saying he has no criminal history because he never got caught. He retired from KCK in 2011. Mr. Golubski has lived in the same town for the majority of his life. His only close family lives nearby. He's not a traveler and does not possess a passport. He possesses no flight risk. Mr. Golubski is almost 70 years old, and requires regular medical intervention. He's a diabetic, so he is an insulin-dependent diabetic, administering 4 insulin injections daily. He also has late-stage kidney disease, such that he requires dialysis 3 times per week. Well, they do that in the jail. Any attempt to flee and the result loss of this medical care would be deadly. Home detention is further jeopardizing, get this, home detention is further jeopardizing his health. Since Mr. Golubski completed the cardiac rehabilitation services for his heart bypass surgery earlier this year, confinement in his small home means disregarding his physician's direction to continue rehabilitation on his own regular exercise. The nature of the danger to any person in the community that would be posed by the person's release. At the September 19th detention hearing, defense counsel did not know that the FBI had been conducting surveillance of Roger Golubski since at least January of 2019 and continuing until his arrest. So surveillance was extensive, including a constant video feed of his home and multiple agents following him on various days. Surveillance did not reveal that Mr. Golubski was participating in any malevolent or dangerous activity. To the contrary, it revealed that he lived an ordinary life and a retiree, as surveillance continued reports. This was all from his attorney. Roger attends court and meets with counsel daily. So he's basically trying to get that dropped. That didn't happen. It didn't get dropped. We're going to go on to something else. I want to show you something else before it gets too late because I've already took up too much of your time. But I do find this case to be very, very important. And Carrie, if you're going to come in here and start cracking into what I'm reading, it's going to get crazy like it did the other day. So please do not allow that to happen. I just saw you in the chat. If I'm going to cover this case, I'm going to cover this case. I don't need you fighting with me over it. So one or two things are going to give here. Okay, back to this. This was 5 months ago. Oh, hold on, guys.
Golubski does have diabetes.
I don't like the way things went the other day. You're lucky I'm.
He is Donna, and Golubski was spotted and photographed.
It's a very important case, and I'm not doing it for you.
A former Kansas City, Kansas police detective could be thrown in jail as he awaits trial on several sex crime charges.
Roger Golubski is under house arrest, but prosecutors say he isn't following the rules. Let's go to KMBC9's Martin Augustine, who's live with the story. Martin, he is set to be in federal court today, right?
He is Donna, and Golubski was spotted and photographed in a fast food restaurant in January. So today, that federal judge will listen to arguments about whether or not that warrants the revocation of his pretrial house arrest. Now, Golubski, accused of sexually assaulting women and taking part in a sex trafficking ring while on the job as a detective with the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, is under orders to remain confined to his home. His stop at the fast food restaurant, one of his accusers says, should put him behind bars.
How many times has it been with someone where he's been where he's not supposed to be at without someone recording him? That's the question. Y'all supposed to know where he is at all times, and y'all not monitoring him. He can go do something to someone else and go back home.
Golubski does have diabetes, and his attorney will argue that the stop at the restaurant was a step to get his blood sugar under control. As far as his trial goes, there's no date for a start on that yet. The next court hearing in that matter will happen in late May. Reporting live, Martin Augustine, KBC 9 News.
It's a button again. Let's see here. We're almost to the end of what I wanted you to see for today. Yeah, he was at a fast food restaurant inside eating. It said his diabetes was over the charts, but they had a drive-through. So he's showing that he don't care. And listen, I'm doing my own investigation. I do tend to have a little bit of connections with the federal government. So we're going to find out more about this, the judge that's handling this and everything else. Again, I don't need people arguing with me in the chat. That's all I ask. I had a moment. I said from the beginning I would try to carry this on and go over this case. I've been saying it for a couple weeks now. I finally got a break to do it. So please allow me that time to do it.
KMBC 9's Jackson Kurtz is live from
An update in a years-long KMBC 9 News investigation. Former KCK police detective Roger Golubski
will stand trial in December.
And he faces criminal charges in 2 federal cases. KMBC 9's Jackson Kurtz is live from downtown KCK after talking with a group that supports the detective's accusers.
Yeah, well, that group More Squared, who says that they talked to women who say they were raped by Roger Golubski. They say this trial has been a long time coming. Former KCK detective Roger Golubski will finally see his day in court.
Finally, like some kind of justice for these folks who have been so beaten down.
In one case, Golubski is accused of abusing his authority as a law enforcement officer to repeatedly sexually assault 2 victims, including a minor.
We believe Roger Golubski has been assaulting and harming Black women since his earliest days on the police department, and also men.
In the other case, he's charged with helping run a sex trafficking ring targeting several young women, including a minor. The group More Squared says that this trial is only happening because of the brave women who came forward.
And we think it's high time that something happened to this man. And it's hard to celebrate anybody getting indicted or having a criminal when you're us, when you fight for the kind of change and reform we want, except this guy. Women's courage has led this.
Now, opening arguments start on December 6th, and the trial's expected to end January 2025. It will be in Topeka. Live in KCK, Jackson Kurtz, KMBC 9 News.
All right, Jackson, thanks. As we've said, KMBC 9 Investigates has been following this story for years. We have links to 10 of our past reports right now at kmbc.com. You'll find those links inside the story on the homepage.
I'll show you something else, too.
I would have to come down to the police station headquarters, go to the front desk, and then I guess they would call back, and then he would come out and get me so we can leave and go get in the car. That was his lunch break, but we would go to his house so he can do the oral sex on me. When he called, I had to show up. It was like I didn't have no choice. I knew he was blackmailing me, but I didn't know how to tell somebody really for real. But I knew he was blackmailing me.
Mika Hobbs first encountered Kansas City, Kansas Police Captain Roger Golubski in January of 2006. She was 26 at the time and had just been released from the hospital after being thrown through her shower door by her boyfriend. There was no reason for the homicide captain to be investigating an aggravated battery, and according to court records, he had nothing to do with the investigation. But because he knew there were drugs in the house, Mika felt blackmailed into having sex with him. For years, she says, he took her on creepy rides to his home in Edwardsville and through other parts of Wyandotte County that she agreed to visit again on camera.
This is just the area. You see my route? There's nobody on this route. This is the route we used to take. Nobody around. This was a whole street that we went down. My mama told me never to go on this street growing up.
Barriers now block this stretch of Brown Avenue east of 21st Street. The sloping road that Golubski would creep along with her is overgrown and impassable.
He never drove fast. He just like cruised through here. He would just act like he was just driving, looking around as we rode through here. He have a stack of pictures just on his dash. Some of them were Polaroid, some of them were obituaries, some of them were just pictures of women in jail, just mugshot. He was just asking me, did I know him? These women are way older than me, like old enough to be my mama. Majority of the women that he showed me had red lipstick on, and we all kept our hair similar. All our hair was similar. The women's that he showed me, he said that those are cases that he had. Some of these women that he was showing me that he said he had cases, I thought they were just victims like me. Along my ride, he would make me feel on him and put my hand between his legs, and he would ask me about just certain women. And then he asked me what I know about them apartments, Delavan apartments. I don't know nothing about them. My uncle just stayed there.
The Delavan apartments were the alleged site of a sex trafficking ring operated by Cecil Brooks, Golubski, and 2 other men. They're only a short distance from another stop the detective always made in the area, the overlook at the historic Quindaro ruins.
When we came up, we come through here, but we always pass this right here. Come up through there. Right here, he'll pull out more pictures. And he asked me, did I know certain women? Nothing but women. Women victims, or they could have been dead, they could have been alive, but they were all women.
Golubski's route with Mika Hobbs also took them north on 18th Street. Just before the road dead ends at the Kansas River, he'd turn into the Memorial Park Cemetery.
Go this way. It's back here.
And drive to the children's burial section on the northeast edge of it.
Going straight on back. Every time he took me on my route, we cruised through here. He slowed down, glanced over here, once again put my hand between his legs, and then he would just slowly drive out. But he always glanced over here. Yeah. Now look at the rest of the fence. I think there are people that he did something to back there, because you're just not going to keep taking me on the same route. Then you're not just going to keep asking me about pictures, I'd be thinking about the women. Why would he ask me about a certain woman? Well, maybe that's one of the women he did something to her right here.
What would closure look like at this point?
Closure would look like at this point, it'll be a big relief, because my kids know that it wasn't me. He had a high-ranked position. That was to keep people safe and to protect people. But now he used that against he used it. It's a lot more women that they scared to come, but not I. There's another one. Let me get to it. I don't think these women are lying at all. Let's see here. Is that one? He did go to court. The judge said he violated his pretrial agreement but left him on house arrest. And there is more accusers,
We got like a sisterhood now because of all what we all have been through.
Quinn tells me for decades she's lived in fear of this man. And she says she's not alone.
So many women. And a lot of people are scared. When you talk to them about him, it's like the Grand Reaper have came.
Quinn met Golubski in 1994. Witness to her cousin's murders, she says he threatened and intimidated her into naming an innocent young man as the killer. Lamonte McIntyre spent more than 2 decades in prison until Quinn recanted.
Man, you gotta be sorry, you ain't care that no more. That's over with.
He forgave her. She's not forgiven herself.
Because I feel like 29 years ago, I made the wrong decision. Instead of him going to jail, I should have went.
But last week, she says she went to sleep without pills or alcohol for the first time in years. Golubski was on the other side of the law, accused of brutally raping at least 2 women. Quinn and others were at the courthouse Monday.
But I already knew that they were going to let him out.
because he's one of them.
A judge granted Golubski house arrest as he awaits trial. She's hoping for a conviction from the courts, but not expecting one.
If they don't, he got hell to pay on the other side.
So anyway, so now we got court coming up in December. I will make sure that I'm at that court. He did try to fight. He did try to fight and get his charges dropped not too long ago. Completely dropped. He wanted them completely dropped. Let's see here. Let's see here. I want to add this to this. This was a lot in one day, I get it, but
KMBC 9 News investigation. Former KCK police detective Roger Golubski will stand trial in December.
And he faces criminal charges in 2 federal cases. KMBC 9's Jackson Kurtz is live from downtown KCK after talking with a group that supports the detective's accusers.
Want to make sure we get the date right.
Yeah, well, that group More Squared, who says that they talked to women who say they were raped by Roger Golubski. They say this trial has been a long time coming. Former KCK detective Roger Golubski will finally see his day in court.
Finally, like some kind of justice for these folks
trying to get
who
the date. I didn't
have
write it down.
been so beaten down.
In one case, Golubski is accused of abusing his authority as a law enforcement officer to repeatedly sexually assault 2 victims, including a minor.
We believe Roger Golubski has been assaulting and harming Black women since his earliest days on the police department, and also men.
In the other case, he's charged with helping run a sex trafficking ring targeting several young women, including a minor. The group More Squared says this trial is only happening because of the brave women who came forward.
And we think it's high time that something happened to this man. And it's hard to celebrate anybody getting indicted or having a criminal when you're us, when you fight for the kind of change and reform we want, except this guy. Women's courage has led this.
Now, opening arguments start on December 6th, and the trial's expected to end January 2025. It will be in Topeka. Live in KCK, Jackson Kurtz, KMBC 9 News.
Jackson, thanks. As we've said, KMBC 9 Investigates has been following this story for years. We have links to 10 of our past reports right now at KMBC.com. You'll find those links inside the story on the homepage.
Anyway, there's a lot to go over. A lot I'm still going over. Like I said, I just finally had time to take the time and try to go over it. But I've been talking to several people in Topeka itself. So it's just a shame these women even had to go through it.
FBI arrested former Kansas City, Kansas police detective Roger Golubski today. He made his first appearance in federal court in Topeka. The 69-year-old faces 6 civil rights charges. The indictment alleges that he sexually assaulted 2 victims between 1998 and 2002, and Golubski's alleged conduct includes aggravated sexual abuse and kidnapping. His court-appointed attorney entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. Golubski retired from the KCK department in 2010. He worked in the Edwardsville Police Department until 2016. A lawsuit filed in 2018 accused Golubski of forcing a sexual relationship onto then 17-year-old Lamonte McIntyre's mother, Rose. When she refused, the lawsuit alleges that he framed Lamont for a double murder. McIntyre served 23 years in prison before a judge vacated his convictions. He was released in 2017.
A woman who tells us she's a sexual assault survivor mentioned in the indictment says today brings a lot of complicated feelings. Tonight, Ophelia Williams is celebrating the fact that Golubski is arrested.
Ophelia Williams' day started with a call from the FBI agent she'd been working with for a long time.
She said, I have good news to tell you.
I was like, what is it? She said, I just arrested Roger Golubski. So I screamed.
It was the message she'd waited a long time to hear.
I was so excited. I was taking my granddaughter to school. I'm just hitting her.
Ophelia says she is the OW in court documents that say the former KCK detective sexually assaulted her.
He could have killed me in my own place.
Her sons are still in prison, so the celebration tonight is bittersweet. The saving grace for her is that the man who attacked her is also behind bars. She just recently started to get her voice back after a massive heart attack a few years ago. Thursday's events make the soft word she gets out now feel much louder.
So raising your voice.
Yes.
So the next step, those organizers say, is revisiting the cases that Roger Golubski was involved.
So since then, let me cancel all this here. So since then, it is going to trial. I saw some questions up here. They did not revoke his house arrest, even though they got a strict warning from the female federal judge that is in charge of this case. But no, he's still on house arrest. Well, I'd love to have you there, Buffalo Gal. Listen, I do have friends. That's where the marshals are. That's where our chief is of the Marshal Service. That is where the U.S. Marshal for the state of Kansas is too, is in Topeka. So we will definitely be amongst friends. But ever since I was told about this case, then I got phone calls about the case. I've been looking into it in the background. As everybody knows, the Veronica and Jilian case comes absolutely in front of this case. I'm sorry, it's a case that we are deeply involved in, and it will definitely always come first. But I'm going to do my best to keep covering this. I've got some inside stuff, some stuff that I can't release. I got friends that I went to high school with that actually work for, they're pulling a bunch of stuff that they had from their news network. So, and more than likely, we will also have a news pass for that hearing. So it's something that I've worked really hard on. That, again, I'm not trying to be shitty. I'm not arguing with anybody. I do things the way I want to do it. That's why it's my channel. So if you don't like it, you don't have to be on my channel. Now back to the Veronica and Jilian people. We'll do another live here in a bit, probably about 7:30, and continue going over this is not going to take precedence over the Veronica and Jilian case whatsoever. But I do think it's a case that needs looked at. I think it's a case that needs a lot more attention. Hell, you never know. When I talk to Girly Girl, we go to Topeka a lot. So we do a lot of things in Topeka. So with that said, we could probably get a pretty good crowd there anyway. So thank you for those of you who listened and paid attention. It's very much appreciated. I was going to see what day is December 6th on. Let's see here. Hope it ain't a Wednesday. Let's see here. December 6th is a Friday. So go up there on a Friday. Maybe go up there Thursday night and take the bus and be there for court is what I'm looking at. Rock. Could they still civilly commit Golubski to the S-Predator treatment program at Larned since these happened in Kansas, even though it's being prosecuted in federal court? I don't believe so. I don't know what they'll send him to a federal court, but I mean, it don't seem to be anything off common. There is plenty of people in prison right now that do dialysis and is diabetics, that do cancer treatments and everything else. So I don't I don't really understand why that's even an issue. I don't understand why he ever got house arrest. So, and it's, this is a poor part of KCK. Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County is the richest county in Kansas. Like, they got some money up there. No, but nobody was going to believe them. And they tried this many, many times. I want to find some old clips from the first 48 hours, because I've seen them with Golubski in it. And the SPTP in Kansas is civil commitment that can be ordered after the S offender completes their sentence in prison. Not all so go to that facility, but this entity needs to be away from the public. Well, the problem is he needs to serve his time for what he's did. I mean, he sent innocent men to life, or innocent men to prison. Not only that, I got it. I knew you meant Larnard. Not only that, there's missing women that was never found that they are linking him back to. See, they're not letting y'all know everything. The FBI did a lot of investigation, and there's a lot more on this case. And why the judge still continues to allow him to be on house arrest is beyond me. Just a couple weeks ago, he went and tried to get it all dismissed. He's been trying to get it dismissed. So it's an ongoing battle. And I hope you saw Titus answered that up at the top. It would not be in KC. It's going to be held in Topeka, is the way I understand it. That the case will be held in Topeka, Kansas. So, unless y'all heard differently, that's the last paperwork I got on it, is that it was going to be held in Topeka. So, and that's also where Kobach is, the Kansas Attorney General. He's right there in Topeka. Topeka is the capital. It's not very far from KCK. I would say less than an hour. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that case, did anybody catch it differently? I'm under the understanding that that case will be held in Topeka. I will look through my paperwork, but I'm still pretty sure that it's going to be held in Topeka. But it is a very important case. And not only that, what about all the ones that's missing out there that was never found? And here you go again, Ann. And sexual predator treatment program is for sex offenders in the state of Kansas who needs to be kept off the streets after prison. Well, for one, he's never served prison. These women's never got justice for what he's did. And two, there's missing kids and missing women that I believe in trial might be tied back to him. So now that's my opinion. I'm not God. I can't tell you that is what it is, but that's my opinion from what I'm seeing from different paperwork that's being sent to me from people in law enforcement, is they're able to link him back to people that is missing. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting case. Basically, all that's next to do is to go to trial and make sure we're there to support them women. And that I don't know what kind of ties that the federal judge would have on, what kind of federal ties the judge has with Golubski, because she's a fairly recent judge. With that said, he was city, he wasn't federal, so we'll just have to wait and see what happened. Yeah, so they did say Topeka. That's what my paperwork said. Exactly. There are so many who went missing on that very stretch of road they showed on the news feast. Yeah, a lot. And kids. And he would always take the one lady to the cemetery. Like he had buried kids behind where the kids were buried in the cemetery. There's a lot to this case. So those of you who decide to go onward with the case with me, great. Those who can only handle the Veronica and Jilian case, it's okay. It's not going to hurt my feelings. But straight up, the Veronica and Julian case comes first, above and beyond everything else. In my book, that's where my heart's at. I'm willing to go on with this case, and I do care about these people too. But I find that this Veronica Julian case is probably going to get crazy, and we got to stay right on top of it. Because I believe there's things happening right below our eyes where they won't let us see. Yeah. Thank you, Rock, for being here for us all and keeping us informed. You're welcome. Thank you, Mama. I appreciate it. Like I said, I tried to bring this up the other day and it got really shitty. So I just said the hell with it and just kept doing it on my own. And I talked to a couple of people about it, and I said, well, I'm thinking about bringing it to the YouTube because it'll get more coverage and it will help. But I'm not looking for any trouble or bickering with anybody. I know there's one lady who really cares about these women and really wants to help them, but you got to let me do things the way I want to do them when it's my channel. So that's where we're going to be with that. As long as you can be in chat and you can have a productive chat and be good, I'm okay with it. But the other day was not good, and I won't have another day like that. Thanks, Rock, for letting us know about the case from Wyandotte County in Kansas. I read about Kansas current events, but don't see anything in the news about this where I live. Very corrupt county for years, yeah. You know, that's where all of our senators live and our House of Representatives. I mean, you know, I take back the House of Representatives because they're like, mine's right down the street. But that's where a lot of them live. That's where a lot of Maine attorneys live. Like Kansas City, Kansas is an old town, but there's lots of money there. Lots of Golubskis too. Like lots of Golubskis. That name is very, very common. Oh, and I agree. He is likely the reason so many sisters are still missing. I agree. Hopefully he gets a life sentence, but if he don't, Emma probably take up initiative to see if they can civilly commit in Kansas. Yeah, I agree, but I mean, look how long they've been trying to go after him. Many, many years. This wasn't just a couple days. Wasn't just a couple days. You know, this was years. And then they dropped it. And then they only gave him $100,000, which didn't do anything. So they've been fighting hard on it. And there's people that's working on it. And when I do go over these cases, I'm not going to sit here. The ones that's working on it, I'm not going to sit here and let you tell me they're doing a shitty job. He's horrible. This one didn't do this. This one didn't do that. I'll cover this case the way I want to cover it. That's how that'll be. Okay. If my cousin were still alive, I'm sure she'd have hosted us in her home in Topeka. She was a really, really cool. I've got a lot of friends in Topeka. That's where I was stationed out of, was Topeka. So I do have a lot of friends there. And then we'll have the bus. There'll be a lot of things. I do believe I have a friend that still owns a hotel there. So I'll check more into that. But we'll figure it out. So anybody that is willing and wants to go to that, we'll make it happen. But just don't feel obligated. I don't want anybody to ever feel obligated because I did bring it to the YouTube channel that you're obligated to have to participate in this case. I'll try to do this one during the day and still do the Veronica Jilian one at night. It's going to be a lot of work, but I'll still do it. Amen. We are here for the survivors and for bad things happening to bad people. We want it stopped. And the only way to stop it is to getting it out there in public and showing support. I always say that. Rock can't do it alone. It takes all of us. And I find it really weird that I believe he was married to an African American woman, and that's what he targeted. I don't know. I'm going to dig more into that, but I just find it really weird. Because his ex-wife that was on the phone made me believe that. I read that he wanted to be a priest from a Polish immigrant family. They are Polish, and their favorite holiday is St. Patty's Day. That's their favorite holiday. Like, they take everything off for St. Patty's Day. That's their thing. Like I said, I worked with a Golubski, and she was a good friend of mine, and we are still friends. But there is a lot of Golubskis there. Tiny Human says, well, hello. Well, hello back to the Tiny Human. Kansas Rural, can't even imagine Golubski going to church. Yeah, listen, people live double lives all the time. Look at your guy in New York. I mean, he's a police officer and a serial killer. So, it's going to be interesting to see what they find out, what the FBI actually brings out in this case. And then the poor guy that spent all the incarceration time. I agree. He could lost his life, and Roger could kill over dead tomorrow. That don't make up for the 40 years of torture that he did. It's sad. It's sad. We're just gonna hope for the best. With that said, it'll probably be about 7:30. It won't be a very long live. I don't really got a lot to go over tonight. I just always try to be here for everybody. I'll come on for a little bit. Anybody that has anything to say about the Veronica Jilian case. I really didn't want to take on any other cases while we're doing the Veronica Jilian case. This one needs attention. This one definitely needs attention. Topeka is easier to get to from here than going to no man's land. But if I need to get down there, then it will happen. Actually, I think the Topeka one will be great. Like I said, we can even figure it out. I got friends there. I should have the motorhome by the end of this week. So we should be set. And I got friends with properties. So we'll just go for the trial. I haven't seen yet exactly how long this trial will last. But they're not letting all the evidence out either. So we'll go on a Friday, because that's when it's going to start. And then just whatever time you can make it to go there, for those of you that are in Kansas and do want to be involved. Yes, he was married to an African-American lady, but he annulled the marriage without telling her. She did not find out till 5 years later, when she found him with other women and she wanted a divorce. Oh. See, I'm glad Kansas Rural, I'm glad you know about the case too. Opus Tinker, with great power comes great responsibility. That's true. Greater responsibility at that. And accountability. And nobody's made this man accountable at all. It frustrates me that he's even on house arrest. Like, really? Let's see here. Let's see here. I remember that at Titus, Rose Precious Doe was everywhere when they identified her. The news said it literally 25. Wow. I think it's longer than that. I think it's longer than that because he's been retired for 12 years. Oh, it said 25 days. They assume it'll last. Yeah, there's a lot to uncover. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if some murder charges don't end up in this. So it's going to be interesting. It's not going to be fun, and it's going to be sad. But the being there supporting the women, they'll love that. I got you. I understood what you said, but thank you. Anyway, we'll keep track of it. It won't be an everyday thing. I got my friend Alan. He's in the news. So anything that comes up, he'll be telling me about it. So with that said, I'll see you guys in about an hour and a half or so. And we'll just visit for a little bit. It will not be very long at all. Treat everybody the way you want to be treated. Always be good to one another. And hopefully you have a good evening. I don't want to take up a lot of your time tonight. So I do realize that a lot of our people that follow the Veronica and Jilian case, they follow it at night. And it's usually 7:30, 7:45 is when I do it. So that's when I plan on doing it again. Probably 7:30, 7:45. I'll post it here in a minute. I'll just keep going over it. With that said, much love to all you. And again, we're start fresh. I don't have a problem with anybody here. Let's just keep it that way and keep it going good. All right, guys. See you in a bit.